there's a way in which, because of the historical control over the media, let's say here in Egypt.
She can't hear you in translation.
Okay. This is working, right? Thanks. That's working, yeah. So, I think in large part because of the historical control over the media here, in many ways, the public is more sophisticated of media consumers here than they are in the States. I think in the States we are brought up being taught that we live in a free society where our media is independent and all opinions are encouraged. And to some extent that's true, but if you flip between ABC, CBS, and NBC, the diversity of perspectives you hear there is pretty narrow. And so it gives us a sort of false sense of being informed. And so, in large part because of that, I think there isn't really the hunger for external viewpoints in the States that you find here. I think another large factor in that is just the nature of power today, in that I think we as Americans don't at least immediately recognize the way in which what happens here affects us. It's just, we don't see it. Of course there are ways, but they're not as readily apparent as if George Bush makes a decision about foreign policy to Egypt, it affects people's lives here more directly. And so there's asymmetry that I think it's important to be aware of. And I think a real challenge, towards really building a lot of the empathy and understanding that we're talking about today in America is to really recognize that, and that it's not just a question of providing access, although that's important. Get a little closer, really? Okay. Great. It's not just a question of getting access, it's also a question of generating interest. And this is really the core of what we're doing. Is we at Soliya believe that the best way to generate curiosity or interest in another culture is to provide them with an experience interacting with the people. I think it's very hard to come to Egypt, to meet people here, and not have a deep empathy, curiosity, and empathy. Just a sense of empathy for what are the issues that are affecting people here. So that's really at the heart of our model, is the idea that if you build these relationships, then that interest and curiosity will naturally follow.
I completely agree with you. It's kind of ironic, but I once heard America referred to as a Jazeera, which is an island, and it's true, and I can't really blame Americans for it, because, as you said, what they do influences us in the Middle East so much more than other around. Like when Indonesia comes to Egypt, it's front page on every single newspaper, but it's the other way around. It doesn't really register on our radar because it doesn't really influence them as much. Like my pen pal, which I was talking about, sounds very lame, but we talk a lot about Obama and Hillary, but she's not really going to know what's happening with bread here in Egypt, even though it's a huge issue and like 11 people, at least 11 have died. But it's not really her fault because it doesn't really affect her that much as their actions affect us. So I think, as you're saying, Soliya, things like Soliya is very important, because even though you have a Jazeera English over there, even if the percentage of people who actually listen or read about not just what's happening here, but actually from the people who are here is minimal, it still does something. But actually meeting people is a world of difference. We're kind of, at least as an AUC, I'm kind of spoiled by the fact that I meet people from all over the world every single day. I minored in Arab and Islamic civilization, which only foreigners for some reason, no Egyptians took that. I traveled a lot, so I meet a lot of people, but when I participated in the Soliya, the Connect program, it was very strange for me to realize that a lot of these Americans you've actually never met, not just met in real life, I've never actually talked to anyone from this region, which I think is vital in the world today for really actually to really build bridges, as corny as that sounds, because that's the only way you actually get to really, when you talk to people, realize that it's not really as the media makes it seem, at least I hope.
Okay, so now we're going to move into our question and answer part, and my lovely assistant Nina is going to be walking around with our portable mic. And for the question and answer session, please make your questions in the form of a question, and raise your hand, and Lena will come. Oh, never mind. Ramadan, my lovely sister Ramadan is going to be around with the mic. Sorry, Lena. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand and we're going to open the floor. If you have questions for a specific member of the panel, please address the question to them.
I have a comment. Can I say it?
Sure.
بالنسبة لاستقرار 6
Sorry, we're in a little bit of translation in mic, so we just...
شغال؟ التعليق بتاعي او باختصار يعني اضراب 6 ابريل يعني فيما يخص دور الشباب في المشاركه. اظهر الاضراب ان المجموعات اللي هي المجموعات اللي على الفيسبوك والمدونات والمواقع يعني اظهرت وجود اعلام بديل في مصر او اعلام مستقل بيقوم به في شباب بدور كبير يعني. كان يعني نجاح هذا الاعلان واضح جدا في تحريك الاحداث ومحاوله اختراق ما يقوم به الاعلام الحكومي من تصوير الاحداث على ان مفيش اضراب وان ما يقوم به من يدعون للاضراب هم قله مندسه الى اخره يعني. فاثبت الاعلام البديل انه مصدر للمعارضه الفعاله يعني وخصوصا بين الشباب. كما انه يعني عبر او عكس حركه اجتماعيه جديده بين الشباب. هؤلاء الشباب كانوا من كل التيارات الفكريه وده شيء ايجابي جدا لانه بيكسر حده التعصب المتبادل بين الشباب او بين التيارات الفكريه المختلفه. ويكرس طبعا قيمه التساوي كاحد القيم الديمقراطيه بين التيارات الفكريه لان هذه القيمه غائبه عندنا في واقعنا المصري يعني يجب الاعتراف بذلك. لكن المشكله ان هؤلاء الشباب ما زالوا يعني مؤثرين في مجال الاعلام البديل في مجال الانترنت ولا يعني بحاجه الى التاثير على ارض الواقع وبين الحركات الاجتماعيه لانهم بعيدون عن التاثير في حركاتهم الاجتماعيه. ده يعني مثلا واحد من الاخوان المسلمين، واحد من اليسار، واحد من التيار الليبرالي، كلهم بعيدين عن القرار داخل تياراتهم يعني. فالمهم ان نبحث يعني كيف يتم نقل التعاطف يعني المهم ان احنا نبحث ازاي ننقل التعاطف بين الطرفين هنا في مصر مثلا وفي امريكا الى القواعد الاجتماعيه. ازاي الشباب بتوعنا يأثروا في القواعد الاجتماعيه وازاي التعاطف او الحوار بين الشباب المصري والشباب الامريكي يؤدي الى افكار جديده يتم نقلها بعد ذلك الى القواعد الاجتماعيه في يعني في البلدين. لان يعني هذا التعاطف لابد ان يؤدي الى ان كل طرف يشعر انه بياخد احسن ما عند الطرف الاخر. مش يعني مش عاوزين ان مثلا طرف زي طرف من الاطراف ينظر ان الطرف الاخر لابد ان يتغير يعني لابد ان يتغير يعني لو اريد ان اقوله ان يعني لابد ان يحدث تعاطف بين الطرفين، لابد ان يتم نقل هذا التعاطف الى القواعد الاجتماعيه، لا ان ينظر طرف الطرف الاخر انه يجب ان يتغير بصيغه معينه.